I went into an atmosphere where everything was white, like a very bright white atmosphere, very clear. What I realized was nobody could see me, but I could see everybody. I could feel like I could hear from afar. I could hear voices talking from very far.
Kia ora, hello, and welcome back. This is another episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, the host, and today we're chatting all things life, death, and experiences in between with our guest, Ethel Ngala. Ethel had a near-death experience in 2020 when she had a trip to the dentist. If you're a little bit squeamish, please hang in there. It's important we go to the dentist, and it's important that we get these stories out there. So we're going to jump straight into it. Ethel Ngala, welcome along to Let's Talk Near Death.
Thank you, Christine.
Tell us, how does your story begin? What happened?
So, sometime back in 2020, that was in May, I had a tooth that was pulled out, and the dentist didn't give me any antibiotics. He just said,
Oh my
if you
goodness.
start feeling any pain, or you can come back, but he didn't give any. And for some strange reason, I didn't ask. I don't know why. I can't remember why. And then I went home, and on the second day, I realized that the pain was a lot. I could barely move the part of my mouth where the tooth had been pulled out. So I did go back to him immediately, and I'm pretty sure he figured out that the infection was spreading massively, but he didn't want to tell me. He just said, "Oh, I don't have the kind of antibiotics that you need right now. So I'm going to send you to a hospital." So I went to the hospital. That was the emergency. And I told them this is the situation. And then they said, "Okay, just sit down." I sat down for some time, and then they called my name. The nurse called my name, and I went through some doors with the nurse. And that was the last thing I remember, because I only woke up 3 weeks later.
3 weeks.
So once I went through the doors, from what the doctors told me, I was sedated immediately. I was put in a forceful coma because the pus was going to spread into my lungs. So there was pus accumulating. The infection was spreading from my tooth, and it was going from my gum, sorry. It was going to go down to my lungs. So they put me in sedation and coma right away. Now, while I was in coma, I could feel like this energy, like I don't know where I am, because I didn't know where I was, but I felt like my spirit was crushed, because I was just laying there, and the doctors were working on me, and it was during the COVID time. I could feel like I could hear from afar. I could hear voices talking from very far in that state, but I couldn't communicate. Now, what struck me most was I I began to see people. Like, I could see my boss, because I didn't turn up for work. I could see my boss trying to find me. He was calling and calling. I could see my sister trying to find me. She was calling and calling. So they put me in sedation, and they turned off my phones, and they didn't contact anybody.
No way.
So at this point, I started trying to meet these people. So I was actually laying there in the coma, but I was trying to go meet these people, like in another world. So I was moving, I was virtually moving, and I was trying to tell my sister that I'm here. And then I went to my house, because I saw the cops at my door trying to break my door. And I was trying to let the cops know that I am in the hospital. But what I realized was nobody could see me, but I could see everybody. I was able to see every single person, but nobody could see me, and nobody could communicate with me. So that is when it dawned on me that uh, this is like a near death experience. So, what actually made me know that um, it was an experience was the fact that I woke up 3 weeks later and I
Mm.
told my sister that the cops went to my place to break my door because they couldn't find me. And I caught up with them at my door and I was telling them I was in hospital. And she was like, yeah, that's true. So I told her my boss was looking for me. I told her the number of friends that were looking for me and they had left notes in my, like through the door, they dropped a note.
Mm.
And what struck me was for everything that I told her, she did confirm. So she brought the notes that I told her and the people that I said had left the notes, she brought them to me while I was still in hospital. At this point, I was out of coma, but I was still in hospital. So that is when I was able to affirm that it was not a dream. It was a near death experience because I had been in contact with all these people, but they were unable to see me. So within this time, while I was in the coma, I had been uh, the doctors before I came out, they had written a bunch of things like I would never be able to walk, I would never be able to
Mm.
talk again if I came out of a coma. I will have a memory loss. So many things that they had written. But while I was in coma and while they were trying to operate on my throat and get out all the pus, I was very, very um, reluctant and I made it difficult for them. So they'd given me as much anesthesia and as much whatever to sedate me, but I was still fidgeting. So I was asleep in the coma, but I was fidgeting because I didn't know where I was. Like nobody told me what was going on. Nobody told me where I was. So I
Mm.
was fidgeting and it made it hard for them to do the surgery. So that was one of the first things that the doctor told me when I came out from my surgery. Like it was a difficult surgery because your spirit is very strong. You kept fighting and fighting. And I was like, yeah, because I didn't know where I was, right? So I had to fight back.
Yeah.
And he explained that it was an emergency surgery. It was not a surgery where they had to start trying to look for my um, maybe next of kin or trying to contact somebody for the family. It was a situation like if you meet somebody who has a seizure, you try to save the person and then you get the contact for somebody later. So
Mm.
it's an instant thing. They had to do it. And he also explained the other things like, oh, you might never be able to talk and walk. But then he began to ask me a couple of questions like, okay, can I have your names? Can you spell your names, your date of birth, your address? And I gave everything right. And then I
Mm.
told him I gave everything appropriate. And so he was surprised because they had already written out that I will have a memory loss and I will need a care facility when I get out. So that struck him a lot. And he was like, okay. And then after that, he was like, you might not be able to walk again. You're going to have to eat only pureed food.
Mm.
And I was like, no, I'm going to learn how to walk. I'm going to learn how to talk. I'm going to learn how to do everything again. I'm not sitting here. So they had brought a wheelchair, and I said, no, I'm not using the wheelchair. So I began to practice how to walk again. I would hold the wall and I would practice how to walk again. And then I also began to eat. I told him to give me things like fruits because they were soft. I started
Yeah.
eating fruits and then gradually I would eat rice. So I did, st- I didn't have a memory loss. I started to walk again. I began to talk. So the doctors didn't know what to do anymore. They got a bit confused at that point because the only thing I wanted to know was how they had put me in coma because I remember going through the doors with the
Mm.
nurse and I don't remember anything else until waking up after 3 weeks later and
Mm.
asking them, why is it 3 weeks? Where what happened to the other days? Because I could see that I skipped some days. And
Mm.
then they explained that I had come through the doors and they had already known the situation. So they just put me through with sedation. It took me into the
Mm.
surgery room And I began to call. So there were a few nurses that assisted the doctors. I could remember some names. And before I thought I was dreaming. But then when I called the name Monica. And then they said, yes, there's a nurse like that. So that's when I began to see that this was a near death experience because I could communicate, I could see everybody, but they could not see me. So I could see her very clearly. I could see what she was doing, even though I was in coma. And one of the things that I also noticed was that at that point, I came to, um, I went into an atmosphere where everything was white, like a very bright white atmosphere, very clear. And what I loved about that atmosphere was it was very serene and peaceful. And
Mm,
I didn't want to come back to the normal atmosphere. Like it was very different out there, I tell you, like very different. And one of the things that were also remarkable was that when I came out of the coma, my my skin color had changed. So it was way darker, like really dark. It took time for my color to come back. So like they would say when somebody has passed on, their skin color could change. And then
mm,
yeah, because I was really scared, especially when I saw my legs like very, very dark, very. So it was a very it was an extraordinary experience to know that there is a life after death, there is another world, and to know that in that situation, you see everybody, but they don't see you. Yeah,
mm,
that was one of the things that I noted out there during that time. You see everybody, you still feel things, but they don't see you, they don't hear you, and all of that.
mm.
So
Wow, thank you, Ethel. There were so many, even you're talking about getting your tooth taken out with no anesthetic, and I'm like, oh, that just sounds so bad. I'm a little bit afraid of things like that. Afraid's not the word. None of us like
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
I'm feeling like, oh, that is rough. And then it's
rough.
like, but yay, look at all the people looking for you. You've got so many
Mhm.
loved ones in your life. So I'm like, yay, that's happy. And then it
Yes,
was another hard time. You can't communicate. And then they're telling you you might not walk and all of these
oh,
things. Then you've got the white light. And I feel like it was like amazing or terrible. And just wow, there's so much in that. And yeah, my heart was going out for you thinking, I was thinking how terrible, how amazing, how hard, how incredible. So just so much variety. I love it. I love the variety. And then you're talking about how you're there trying to communicate with people and they can't see you, they don't know you're there. And I'm
yes,
wondering how much we go through that when we die and don't come back. How
yes.
much we
Mhm.
try and communicate because we hear of
Mhm.
so many points of communication, after death communication.
Yeah. And
I don't
it's a
know.
very, yeah, it's a very helpless situation because you really want to communicate, but then you realize that nobody can hear you. So
Yeah.
it just makes you so helpless. Like, what is going
Yeah.
on?
Helpless
Mhm.
really is the word, I think. Was that quite upsetting knowing that you're trying to connect and they just don't even know you're there?
Yes, they don't because like I would actually see my sister calling the cops to say that she cannot find me.
Yeah.
And I am standing right there and telling her, I am in hospital. Like, I am here. Come to this hospital at this unit in this room. I'm right here. But I would see that she just stayed on the phone with the cops and she was calling one person after the other. So there was no communication. So it took about 3 days before the cops finally found me
In the
in the
hospital.
hospital. Yes,
Wow.
because there was COVID at that time. There was
Yeah.
something that went wrong with the phone lines during that time. There was so many things going on.
Yeah.
So it took about 3 days because they were gonna break my door thinking I was in there. And then they got a call from the hospital saying from another cop saying they found me in this hospital. So they didn't break my door anymore. But I could actually see them trying to break my door. And I was telling them, no, don't break my door. I'm in hospital. I have a tooth infection. I'm in hospital. I kept telling them, but they couldn't see me. So that's when I realized that nobody can see me, but I could see everybody and I could see all what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you experience any fear? Were you afraid of what was happening? Because you're obviously quite aware, understanding that your
Yeah.
body is in the hospital,
Yes.
but you're
So
not.
the first few hours, there was a lot of fear. But then I began to build up this power and this because I said, okay, now I have to be strong if I have to get out of here. I'm
Mhm.
going to push fear away. Because I was really scared in the beginning, like what's going on?
Mm.
What are the doctors doing? So many questions, and and that fear was putting me down. It
Yeah.
was putting me down. I could actually feel it. But then I said, no, I need to get out of here. So I need to be strong. I need to face this. I need to be bold. I need to fight back. And that was one of the reasons why I was fighting back in coma. And the doctors kept saying, you have a very strong spirit because you wouldn't lay still for us to do your surgery. You kept
Yeah.
fidgeting and fighting, even though you were in coma. We've never seen that. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was one of the
That
reasons.
that was one of the questions I had for you was is do you think that's a common thing? Did the doctors say that that happens when you're fighting?
Yes,
Because it shows how connected you were to your body still, but
they said
not
they've
fear.
never seen that. That's when they said you have a
Yeah.
very strong spirit because you were fighting, you were in coma, but you kept fighting over and over. So that is really to show that even when you're unconscious, there is that connection and understanding. And
Mm.
even when you're having a near-death experience, the connection that you still have, you can still make some decisions. Like because at first I had fear, and with the fear, I really felt helpless. Like, okay, how am I going to get out of here? Because the doctors don't seem to be responding to me. Because I was asking them questions while in coma. Like, can you tell me what you're doing? Why I'm laying here? But I could see that there was no response. And after some hours, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to fight back like a fighter,
Yeah.
and I'm going to survive.
Yep, you have a lot of resilience. I can tell you're a strong woman. You've got a lot of fighting resilience. It's right through your whole story. Did you ever feel like you had the ability to choose who you went to see when you're in that place, you're fighting for your life? Could you choose where you went in spirit? Or did you just suddenly find yourself you're with your sister and she's on the phone or you're at your
Um,
house trying
so
to communicate?
I think the connection at this point was mostly with people that I felt were looking for me. So
Okay.
while I was in this state, I connected with people like friends that I felt that were looking for me. I could feel that they sensed that something was wrong and they were on the phone trying to find me. So
Yeah.
that was when I got over my sister, my boss, because I didn't turn up for work. I didn't know I was going into surgery, so I didn't call to say I wouldn't turn up for work.
Yeah,
So
of
my
course.
boss was looking for me. My friends were looking for me. I connected with both of them, and I could see them in their houses on the phone, trying to reach me, and then telling other people, "Oh, her phones are switched off. Have you been able to talk to her in the last couple of days?" So there was just that supernatural connection
Mm,
with
mm,
people that were trying to find me at that time.
yeah. The white light that you talk about, are you able to share a bit more about that? Did you feel like it just was it just came on or you were taken to the white light?
So that was the real near-death experience because I was taken into that arena or that realm,
Hmm.
and to me, I knew that I wasn't coming back. Once I was in that room, I just thought that I was gone. Like this is I am gone because it was like the most peaceful. I have never felt anything like that in my life. It
Mm,
was serene. it was like calm. It was beautiful. It was everything nice that you can think of. And it showed from every indication that it was not in the living. It was not in the world of the living. It was like in the world of beyond, like
Mm.
kind of beyond. And I was just going and I was going wherever I was going. And I was just happily going because it
Yeah.
was feeling good. And then I heard my name. That was when I woke up. So I think that the connection was somebody called me, like my sister called me. She came to visit. So when she called, I was able to come back out of that. Otherwise, I probably think maybe I would have just gone and gone and gone because because I kept asking myself when I was in there, like, oh, where is this? I have never seen a place
Mm.
like this. This is extremely beautiful, extremely peaceful, extremely calm. Oh my goodness, like I was just an hour, like when I was in there. And when I came back, I told her straight away, why did you call me? I was in this room, which was very beautiful. Yeah. Didn't want to come back. So
Yeah. What does she say to that?
yeah, so she was surprised, like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it
Wow.
was very nice. So, and I didn't have that experience again after that
Yeah.
because when she called my name, I came out of the coma. I came back when she called my name, but at that point, I I felt like so I didn't want to be looking at the people because the light from that side was so bright that it had affected me somehow. I couldn't just look directly at her when I came back. I was like, oh my goodness, like kind of that serenity and that a room was had a very bright light that had affected my eyes and being in the coma as well. So it made it difficult to just open my eyes and just start staring at people. So I was closing my eyes a little bit for and trying to look at the wall. I didn't want to. Yeah.
Yeah. And were you aware that you almost just died? Was that
Yes.
instant understanding?
Because yes, because she stated that the nurse had also said, just mentioned when she walked in that my what's it called? Is it a pulse?
Yeah. Your
Yeah,
heartbeat, your
it was
pulse. Yeah.
beeping. Yes, it was beginning to beep.
Oh my
So that's
goodness.
when I knew that, oh, that was it. Like I was probably just going and going.
Yeah.
And I tell you, very, very, it is a very beautiful, comfortable kind of sleep. Like
Yeah.
just kind of feels so good.
I love that type of sleep as well. I love it when they put you under an anesthetic.
Yeah.
Some people are really scared of it. I'm the one of the ones that really enjoy it. So waking up and realizing you nearly just died physically, as well as, well, spiritually, you're somewhere else, you nearly just died. What sort of feeling, like that must have opened up a lot of questions for you about life. Why did I survive? Why am I here? Why did it happen?
Yeah.
Meaning of
A
life?
lot of yes, a lot of things. So the first thing was um that was a good lesson to me because I didn't see that coming. I didn't even know that I could go into the hospital and be taken into surgery without the doctors talking to me.
Yeah.
So I had never dreamt of a thing like that in my life. So that was a good lesson to understand that at any time life can be cut short. At any
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So that was a good lesson. And then a second thing was given what the doctors had written, you might never be able to talk, walk, eat. At any time, anything can happen. So I have seen people in life who are they have disabilities, they're on wheelchair, yeah, but I had never thought or envisaged that one day a doctor will be telling me that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I began to I would say, understand life better. Because before I was just living like, oh, I was just, But after this, I began to understand life better. I began to be more grateful. I began to be more grateful for every day because it's um it's a gift, I would say. Just the fact that you're able to talk, you're able to walk, you're able to,
Mm.
you know, um, you don't know the importance of what you have until you lose it.
Yes.
So that was the one of the biggest lessons I had. So just laying there, being helpless, and then the doctors coming to tell you, oh, you will never be able to talk, you never be able to walk. So all of those things, we take it for granted because we can do them. So until they are taken away, you don't know the importance of what you have until you
Mm.
lose it. So it has just made me to be a more positive person and more grateful.
Mm. People who go through experiences like this often refer to it as a gift. And
Yes.
it's a two-way gift because it comes with all of the other stuff that you have to go through,
Mhm.
physical side of things, emotional processing, and anything can happen. But yeah, the fact that it's a gift, you're so right that we don't appreciate things until they're gone. And that's like one of those cliche sayings, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I just love your
Yeah.
attitude. I can still
So,
feel that resilience coming through even now of just, yeah, let's get the most out of life, which I love. How do you think your experience has transformed the way you think about death, in particular your own death?
okay. Yeah. So, first of all, it has made me understand that death can come at any time from
Mm,
any direction in any order. I never thought like that before. I always just thought like, oh, you'll get to a certain age, maybe when you're elderly, and then you get sick, and then I didn't. Yeah. So now I understand it could be anytime, anywhere, anyhow. And this experience has made me so. Before, I was very private. Like, I wouldn't share a story like this. But then I think that sharing it will teach others to learn to appreciate the gift of life
mm, mm,
and to learn to just be thankful for every day. And yeah, and to learn to be positive because I think that because I was positive and strong and because I was fighting back, like the doctors say, that will be one of the reasons why I was able to come back.
mm,
So I would encourage people not to let fear, even when you're in a near death experience, don't let fear take over. You have to fight it.
mm. I think a lot of that is in daily life as well, to
Yes.
make friends with our fear, to almost pursue the things that scare us, to take that hold away, and
Yes.
we can have a really exciting life. Yeah. Your own death, are you afraid of dying? Are you afraid of
Mm,
what might be after
So
this world, this life?
not now, because that was my first experience. So I would say there was a bit of fear,
Yeah.
and it was the first experience. But after that experience, right now, not no, I'm not.
What
I'm not.
about what about for people who like family members or loved ones who have died or
Mhm.
passed on? Are you afraid for them, or do you believe that they're in that white light?
Mm, I'm not. I'm not. Um. Well, I would just say that I think it was the time, and they had to go. I would say that too, because I think that sometimes when it's time and that comes for you, and it has to take you. Like I would say that. And for some reason, my own experience was different. I had to go near it and then come back to tell the story. So um, I don't know if, yeah, but
Do you think that's why
it's,
this happened for you?
I would say yes, that's why this happened to
Okay.
strengthen me because this has strengthened me. It has
Yeah.
strengthened, especially my thinking, and it has strengthened my yeah, my positive mindset, my thinking, my positive mindset, and it just made me more firm.
Yeah.
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 So I like the thinking, the way I'm thinking right now.
I really like the way you're thinking right now. I think it's amazing. I'd be thinking about so many things, asking questions, because you so could easily have gone to a different dentist or had a different
Exactly.
procedure done, or there was a different assistant on shift at that
On.
time. There's
Yeah.
so many things, and it makes me come back to questioning, are these things pre-written? Like, was this always going to happen for you? Or
Yeah,
do you
I would
think
say
somehow you
that um
subconsciously chose it?
I would say this had to happen because first of all, I always ask a lot of questions when it comes to anything medical.
Yeah.
I would ask so many questions that will even get the dentist or a doctor annoyed because I am very careful and skeptical with anything medical. So I went to the dentist and I said, I need you to feel the tooth, fill it out for me. And then he said, no, it's very bad. I'm going to pull it out. And I said, yes, but that is very unlike me. Normally, I would not accept. I will argue and I would say, no, I want you to feel it. I don't want you to pull it out. What are the consequences if you pull it out? But I didn't ask any questions that day. And I just said yes. So I found it like this was so not like me at all.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to the other. We ended up in surgeries and in
Yeah.
coma.
I'm thinking of the people listening to the show. Maybe they've got a fear of going to the dentist or whatever like that. That's why I'm asking. I think
Yeah.
I love your response that this was always going to happen for you. So if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I've got a tooth and he's probably going to pull it, I don't want to go to the dentist. My feeling, and I'm putting this
Yeah.
out there as my feeling only, is that it won't happen unless it's your time for this to happen. It's not like this was just some freak thing. I kind of believe that
Exactly.
a lot in life is predetermined, predestined.
Too.
So if you've got that too, just go to the dentist. But my question for you, Ethel, is this happened a few years back. Have you been back to the dentist since? Did you have to go get it checked out, or I'm feeling that that would be a really confronting thing to do after this experience for you.
I have, but it has taken a while. And now, what I do, I listen to music while I'm at the dentist, just to,
Oh,
to
nice.
help me.
Yep, yep. I love that. I love the ways we can distract ourselves. At one of the places I go, there's a giant Where's Wally on the ceiling,
Mhm.
and I love that they have that. I just spend
Yeah,
hours looking at that because I don't really
yeah,
like to think about what they're doing.
what they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ask,
So that's
and now I ask like 1,000 questions. Before I would ask just like 10, but now I ask over 30. Like I
yeah.
need to know what you're using, what you're putting in my mouth, what you're like, I want to know everything.
Yeah. I think that's quite fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway that you've taken out of your experience?
So I would, yeah, I I would say that can come anytime. That's
Yeah.
the biggest takeaway. It could be any time. And you can, I would say, never ever be prepared because, like, I wasn't going, when I was going to the hospital, I just took my bag and I just knew I'd get my antibiotics and then I'd come home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea that I was going to be laying there for 3 weeks and, moving around and going to a world beyond and then coming back. So it is, it's extraordinary. And that was my biggest takeaway. Just know that to me, that was the biggest lesson. I never knew that. I did know that we're all gonna die someday. But
Mm.
for some reason, I kept thinking that, oh, it's when you're at a certain age, then maybe you fall sick and da da da. So that was the biggest takeaway. Another big one is your mindset. Your mindset and your spirit has to be, you have to be strong. Wherever you find yourself, even in the world beyond, you have to have a strong spirit. That's just what I want to say. Don't let fear take over. Don't.
Mm, mm. I love it, Ethel. It's incredible. I'm looking at you and you're literally glowing. You're so beautiful. It's amazing because you've been through this experience, and I can understand that they're telling you all these things. You might not walk, you might not be able to eat, all of these things, because when the infection gets that big to the point of you nearly die, it affects
Yeah,
everything in us. And I'm looking at you and I know you're living this vibrant life. I know that you're physically able and you're, I assume, eating all of your favorite foods and just totally
exactly.
going against what you were told. I love it. You just absolutely shine. And I'm so grateful for your sharing your experience with us. There's so much in it. There's so much that we can learn. And yeah, it's incredible. So, Ethel Ngala,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so
Christy.
much.
Thank you.